At a fancy dinner with her friends, my girlfriend whispered, "Don't embarrass me tonight, just smile and pay the bill." I agreed. When the waiter dropped off 2 separate bills, the room went silent. There is a specific type of silence that is louder than any argument. It is the sound of reality crashing into a room full of entitled people. I heard that silence for the first time last night. It was the most satisfying sound I have ever heard, and I was the one who composed it. To understand what happened, you need to understand my relationship with Jessica. For 2 years, I thought we were building a future. I am a software engineer. My life is logical, structured, and I value efficiency over flash. Jessica is in public relations. Her life is about perception, image, and social currency. I thought our differences balanced each other out. I saw us as a team. I would build the engine, and she would design the beautiful exterior. We were partners, splitting our bills and making decisions together. I was not a sugar daddy, and she was not a freeloader. That was the story I told myself anyway. Her friends were another story. A pack of 4 women who treated life like a contest and their social media feeds like the scoreboard. There was Catherine, the leader, who was married to a man who was always conveniently out of town on business. There was Maya, who spoke about her trust fund as if it were a personality trait. And there was Olivia, who changed her career path every 6 months, but never seemed to actually work. They were a whirlwind of expensive brunches, weekend getaways, and designer labels. I never fit in with them, and I never tried to. I was polite, but I did not engage with their gossip or their constant one-upmanship. They treated me with a kind of detached curiosity, like a strange pet Jessica had adopted. They could not understand why she was with a guy who wore a regular watch instead of a Rolex and drove a reliable sedan instead of a German luxury car. The event that changed everything was Catherine's birthday dinner. It was at one of those restaurants where the menu does not have prices and the water costs $20 a bottle. Jessica had been talking about it for weeks. She told me it was incredibly important for her to make a good impression. A few days before the dinner, she sat me down. She explained that all of her friends' husbands and boyfriends were successful and that they always picked up the check for these kinds of events. She asked if just this once, I would be willing to cover the entire bill for the table of 6. She framed it as a birthday gift for Catherine and a way to finally be part of the group. I am not a fool. I knew what this was. It was a test, but I also saw it as a calculated investment in our relationship. So I agreed. I told her I would be happy to do it. Her relief was so profound it should have been a red flag, but I ignored it. Last night, we arrived at the restaurant. Her friends were already there, dressed to the nines, and already on their 2nd bottle of champagne. The conversation was a blur of names I did not know and places I had never been. I was an outsider, an observer, and that was exactly how they wanted it. As we were looking at the menus, Jessica leaned over to me. Her smile was tight, her eyes were sharp. She whispered, so quietly that only I could hear, "Don't embarrass me tonight. Don't talk about your boring coding stuff. Just smile, nod, and pay the bill when it comes. Can you do that for me?" And there it was, the truth stripped bare of all pretense. I was not a guest. I was not her partner. I was a function, a wallet, an accessory she needed to complete her image for the night. Something inside me did not break. It clicked into place. All the small moments of disrespect, the little condescending comments, the times I felt tolerated instead of loved, they all aligned into a perfect, clear picture. I saw the system, and I saw the flaw. I looked back at her and gave her my most reassuring smile. "Of course," I said. I agreed. "I will take care of it." She squeezed my hand, satisfied, and turned back to her friends. For the rest of the dinner, I played my part perfectly. I smiled, I nodded. I listened to their stories about yacht parties and trips to Aspen. They ordered with abandon. Appetizers, lobster, the finest steaks, multiple bottles of the most expensive wine. They were not just having a meal. They were running up a score, and I was the one who was supposed to pay for the points. About halfway through the main course, I excused myself to use the restroom. I did not go to the restroom. I found our waiter, a professional man in his 40s with tired eyes. I pulled him aside. "There has been a change of plans," I said, pressing a $200 bill into his hand. "I need you to do something for me. and I need you to be discreet." I explained that I wanted him to prepare 2 separate bills. The first bill would be for myself and my girlfriend, Jessica, only. The second bill would be for the other 4 women at the table. I gave him my credit card and told him to charge me for my bill and Jessica's bill immediately, and to add a very generous tip for himself. "When it is time for the check," I said, "I want you to bring both bills to the table. Place my paid receipt in front of me, and place their check in the middle of their side of the table. Do not say a word about it unless they ask." He looked from the money in his hand to my face, and a small, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips. He understood. He nodded once and disappeared toward the kitchen. I went back to the table. The performance continued. They laughed and drank, completely oblivious. Jessica would occasionally glance at me and give me a little approving nod, as if I were a dog that had successfully learned a new trick. Finally, the moment came. The waiter arrived at our table. With practiced silent precision, he placed a small black folder in front of me. It contained my credit card and the paid receipt. Then he placed a second, much thicker folder in the exact center of the table, directly in front of Catherine and Maya. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then Catherine, the birthday girl, reached for the check, probably to admire the grand total I was about to pay. She opened it, and then I heard it. The beautiful, perfect sound of silence. She stared at the bill, her smile frozen on her face. Maya leaned over to look, and her eyes went wide. Olivia and the other friends stopped their conversation mid-sentence. The silence spread across the table like a stain. It was heavy, confused, and laced with the dawning horror of financial reality. Jessica was the last to understand. She looked at the paid receipt in front of me, then at the massive bill in Catherine's hand, and then back at me. Her face went through a rapid series of emotions: confusion, then panic, then a deep, burning rage. Catherine finally found her voice. It was a small, weak sound. "There must be a mistake," she said to the empty air. "He was supposed to pay." I took a slow sip of my water. I looked at Jessica, then at her friends. I smiled, I nodded, and then I spoke, my voice calm and clear in the silent room. "Jessica asked me to do 2 things tonight," I said. "Smile and pay the bill. I have done both. My bill is paid." I stood up from the table, placed my napkin neatly beside my plate, and looked at Jessica one last time. The mask was gone. All that was left was the ugly truth of who she was. "You should probably figure that out," I said, gesturing to the bill. "I believe your share of the lobster is on there." I turned and walked out of the restaurant. I did not look back. I did not need to. The silence I left behind was all the confirmation I needed. The show was over, and they were the ones left to pay for the tickets. Update 1. It has been 1 week since the dinner. A week of chaos, recriminations, and the sweet, sweet sound of my phone not ringing with demands. Thank you for all the comments and the support. It is good to know that standing up for yourself is still something people respect. Many of you wanted to know what happened after I walked out. It was even better than I could have planned. I did not go home that night. I had anticipated that the apartment would become a war zone. Instead, I had packed a bag earlier that day and checked into a hotel. I turned my phone off and slept for 8 solid hours, the best sleep I have had in years. When I turned my phone back on the next morning, it was a digital battlefield. I had dozens of missed calls and a long stream of text messages. The first texts were from Jessica, and they were pure rage. "How could you do that to me? You humiliated me. Call me right now. You are a monster, a cruel, evil monster. My friends hate me because of you. You owe them that money. You promised. You are going to pay it, or I swear I will make your life a living nightmare." Then there were the messages from her friends. They had apparently gotten my number from Jessica in their shared fury. From Catherine: "I have never been so embarrassed in my life. You are a cheap, pathetic excuse for a man. You owe me an apology, and you owe me for my birthday dinner." From Maya: "My father's lawyers will be in contact with you. What you did was fraud." Their threats were as empty as their bank accounts, and they knew it. I did not reply to a single message. Instead, I initiated the next phase of my plan. The apartment we lived in was mine. I had it before I met Jessica. She had moved in a year ago. Her name was not on the lease. On the morning after the dinner, I sent her a calm, simple email. Subject: your belongings. Jessica, after the events of last night, our relationship is over. You have until the end of the week, 5 days from today, to pack your things and move out of my apartment. Please provide me with a time when you would like to do this so I can ensure I am not there. If your belongings are not removed by Sunday at 5 p.m., I will have them professionally packed and put into a storage unit in your name. The first month will be paid for. After that, it will be your responsibility. I think this is the most efficient way to handle this. I did not sign it with love. I did not sign it at all. Her reply was a long, rambling mess of accusations and pleas. She said she had nowhere to go, that I was throwing her out on the street. She said she could not afford to move. This is where my preparation paid off. I had known for months that Jessica's financial situation was a house of cards. She earned a decent salary, but she spent it all, and then some, on maintaining her image. The expensive clothes, the brunches, the trips, it was all funded by a combination of her paycheck and a steady, subtle stream of my money. She would forget her wallet when we went out or ask me to cover a bill that she would pay me back for later, which she never did. I replied to her email with a single attachment, a spreadsheet. For the past 6 months, I had been tracking our shared expenses. Every time she had used my credit card for her personal items, every dinner I had paid for, every weekend trip funded by me, I had documented it all. The spreadsheet showed that over the last year, I had subsidized her lifestyle to the tune of nearly $20,000, outside of our shared living expenses. My email was short. Subject, your belongings. Jessica, I believe you will find that you have more than enough resources to secure a new place to live. You simply need to adjust your spending habits to match your actual income. Attached is a summary of the funds you have saved over the past year by not having to pay for your own expenses. Please let me know when you will be collecting your things. The emails stopped after that. The reality of her situation, presented in the cold, hard language of a spreadsheet, was something she could not argue with. The best part of the fallout, however, was what happened between her and her friends. I heard from a mutual acquaintance that the dinner bill was over $3,000. Without me to cover it, the 4 of them were left to split it. For women who lived on credit and perception, a sudden, unexpected bill of over $700 each was a catastrophe. They did not handle it gracefully. Catherine insisted that since it was her birthday, she should not have to pay as much. Maya argued that she had only had 1 glass of the expensive wine, so her share should be smaller. The argument apparently devolved into a screaming match in the middle of the restaurant. They ended up having to put the bill on multiple credit cards. And the friendship, which was built on the shaky foundation of social climbing, completely fractured. They all blamed Jessica. She was the one who had brought the broke loser into their group. She was the one who had guaranteed he would pay. Her social standing, the thing she had valued more than our relationship, was now in ruins. She had been cast out of the very group she had tried so hard to impress. She has chosen Saturday to move her things out. I will be at my office, running a system diagnostic. It feels fitting. I am debugging my life, removing the corrupted files, and preparing for a system reboot. She thought she could use me. She thought I was just another line of code she could manipulate. She forgot that I am the one who writes the code. Update 2. It has been a month since the night of the separate bills. The process of detangling my life from Jessica's has been both methodical and, in a strange way, deeply satisfying. Every box she carried out of my apartment was another step towards my own freedom. The move out was as pathetic as you might imagine. She did not hire movers. She could not afford them. She and her mother spent a Saturday hauling boxes and furniture out of my apartment. I was not there as promised. I had a friend, a large and imposing guy named Ben, stay at my place to supervise. He told me the atmosphere was thick with resentment. Jessica's mother kept making comments about how her daughter had wasted her best years on me. Ben just stood there, arms crossed, and made sure they did not take any of my things. The real consequences for Jessica and her friends, however, have been far more severe than a fractured friendship and a large dinner bill. My plan did not end when I walked out of that restaurant. That was just the beginning. A few weeks ago, I received a certified letter from a lawyer representing Catherine's husband, the one who was always out of town on business. It turns out he was not just out of town. He was in the process of a long, quiet separation from her, documenting her spending habits in preparation for their divorce. The $3,000 dinner bill, charged to a credit card he was monitoring, was the final piece of evidence he needed to prove her reckless spending of marital assets. The letter was not a threat. It was a request. He was asking if I would be willing to provide a statement about the events of that evening. He wanted to confirm that Catherine and her friends had ordered extravagantly with the full expectation that someone else would be paying. I had my lawyer draft a formal, factual statement. I detailed Jessica's request for me to pay, her friends' ordering habits, and the final bill. I did not add any emotion or opinion. I just provided the data. That statement, I am told, has become a key exhibit in their divorce proceedings. Catherine is not going to get the generous settlement she was expecting. She is going to be held accountable for her lifestyle. Then there was Maya, the one with the trust fund. Her angry threats about her father's lawyers prompted me to do a little research. A few searches of public records revealed that her family's wealth was not as secure as she pretended. Her father's company had been hit with a major lawsuit a few months ago, and their assets were under scrutiny. I did not do anything with this information directly. I did not need to. I simply sent an anonymous email to a well-known financial gossip columnist in our city. The email contained a tip about the restaurant incident, framing it as a story about the children of the elite living large while their family fortunes crumble. I included the names of the restaurant, Maya, and her father's company. The columnist, always hungry for a story about the rich behaving badly, wrote a small but scathing piece about it. The article did not mention the lawsuit directly, but it raised enough questions to cause a stir. The negative publicity has apparently caused a great deal of trouble for her father and their ongoing legal battles. Jessica's life, in the meantime, has completely unraveled. After moving in with her parents, she tried to continue her smear campaign against me. She told everyone I was controlling and financially abusive, but her credibility was shot. Her closest friends, the ones she had tried to impress, were now her enemies. They were telling everyone who would listen the true story of the dinner, painting Jessica as a user who had brought disaster upon them all. The final move I made was for my own peace of mind. Jessica's name was still on the application for the apartment we had been planning to rent together once my lease was up. We had put down a significant security deposit months ago from our joint account. She had been texting me, demanding her half of the deposit back. I contacted the management company of the new building. I explained that we were no longer together and that I would be withdrawing my application. I also sent them a detailed record of the joint account showing that over 90% of the funds in that account, including the entire security deposit, had come from my income. I also included a copy of the spreadsheet I had sent to Jessica, showing the $20,000 of her lifestyle I had subsidized. I suggested that, given the circumstances, the most equitable solution would be to refund the entire deposit to me. The management company, faced with a potential legal headache, agreed. They mailed me a check for the full amount. I emailed Jessica a copy of the letter from the management company, along with the voided check. I told her that I considered the matter of her share of our savings to be settled. She is now truly on her own, no friends, no financial safety net, and a reputation that is in tatters. She is living with her parents, a 30-year-old woman whose entire life of perception and image has been exposed as a hollow shell. She tried to use me as a stepping stone, but she misjudged the stone and fell into the river. Final update. It has been 6 months. The silence on my end has been total, but the echoes of that one dinner continue to reverberate through the lives of the people who were there. I have moved on, but I have also kept an ear to the ground. The final outcomes are, in a word, perfect. My life has improved in every measurable way. I got a promotion at work, I have been focusing on my health, and I have reconnected with old friends who I had neglected while I was busy trying to fit into Jessica's world. My new apartment is my sanctuary. It is decorated with things I like, not things that are meant to impress people I do not care about. It is quiet, it is logical, and it is mine. The lives of Jessica and her friends, however, are a study in karma. Catherine's divorce was finalized last month. As I suspected, my statement had a significant impact. Her husband was able to prove a pattern of wasteful spending, and her final settlement was a fraction of what she had expected. She had to sell her car and is now living in a small apartment, a far cry from the lavish home she once occupied. The queen bee has lost her throne. Maya and her family are still dealing with the fallout from the negative publicity. The lawsuit against her father's company ended in a settlement that cost them a fortune. They are not poor, but their days of casual, conspicuous wealth are over. Maya, I am told, has had to get a real job. The trust fund is no longer a personality trait. It is a lifeline she has to carefully manage. Olivia, the fourth friend, has faded into obscurity. Her social climbing ambitions were tied to Catherine and Maya. With their fall from grace, she has no one left to cling to. And Jessica. Her story is the most complete. After months of living with her disappointed parents, she finally found a new job. It is a step down from her previous position with less pay and no prestige. She has moved into a small studio apartment in a less desirable part of town. She is living the life she can actually afford, and she is miserable. The final, satisfying piece of news came to me indirectly. The waiter from the restaurant, the one who helped me execute my plan, now works at a different establishment closer to my office. I go there for lunch sometimes. He recognized me a few weeks ago. He told me that the story of that night has become a legend among the staff at his old restaurant. He said that after I left, the four women had a full-blown meltdown. They argued for nearly an hour before Catherine's husband, who she had to call in tears, finally came and paid the bill over the phone, an act of finality before his lawyers took over. The waiter then told me something that made this entire ordeal worthwhile. He said that a few weeks ago, Jessica came into his new restaurant on a date. He was not her server, but he saw her. He said she looked smaller, less confident. At the end of her meal, he watched as she and her date split the bill. That is the real victory. It is not that she is struggling. It is not that her friends are gone. It is that the lesson was learned. She wanted me to be a wallet, a silent partner in her life of illusion. But the thing about illusions is that they eventually fade, and all you are left with is the cold, hard reality of the bill. She is finally paying her own way, and I am free. My life is no longer about funding someone else's perception. It is about building my own reality. And my reality is solid, it is stable, and it is paid in full. I still sleep with my ex whenever he's out of town. My fiancée bragged on the phone to her friend. This idiot even proposed with a diamond ring. She didn't know I was standing in the hallway, listening. I didn't say a word. The next morning, I took back the ring and left a receipt from the pawn shop, along with a note, "Hope your ex can afford to buy it back." She's been begging me to take her back ever since. It's been exactly 1 month since my life imploded. 1 month since I discovered that the woman I planned to spend my life with saw me as nothing more than a punchline in conversations with her friends. 1 month since I executed what I thought was justified revenge. Now I'm sitting in a hotel room across the country, drinking bourbon neat, wondering if I went too far. Let me back up. Melissa and I met through mutual friends 3 years ago. Smart, ambitious, drop-dead gorgeous, she was everything I thought I wanted. She works as a prosecutor for the district attorney's office, which is how we met when I testified as an expert witness in a case. We moved in together after a year, and I proposed 6 months ago with a ring that cost me nearly 3 months' salary. 2-carat princess-cut diamond, platinum band, custom design. She cried when I got down on one knee, said it was perfect. Said I was perfect. I travel frequently for work. I'm a forensic accountant investigating financial fraud for several major corporations. The money's good, but the schedule is brutal. 3 or 4 days a week on the road, constantly in airports and rental cars. Melissa said she understood, said she was proud of my work ethic. Last month, I was scheduled for a 3-day trip to Seattle. Typical client meetings, nothing unusual. My flight was at 10 a.m., but around 8:30, my client called. Their CFO had a heart attack overnight, meetings postponed until next week. Just like that, my trip was canceled. I texted Melissa from the garage. Trip canceled, coming back upstairs. No response. Not unusual, she was probably in the shower. Our condo has a split-level design. You enter on the lower floor where the garage access is, then head upstairs to the main living area. As I climbed the stairs with my luggage, I heard Melissa's voice. She was on the phone, laughing about something. Probably telling her friend Susan about the ridiculous proposal story she'd seen on Instagram yesterday. I was about to call out when I heard my name. And Scott has no idea. None. She was speaking loudly, almost shouting to be heard over the bathroom fan. She always took calls on speaker while doing her makeup. I still sleep with my ex whenever he's out of town. This idiot even proposed with a diamond ring. I froze on the stairs, out of her sightline but close enough to hear everything with perfect clarity. "Shut up, you don't," said a female voice I recognized as Susan, her college friend who I'd always felt looked down on me. "I absolutely do," Melissa continued, her voice dripping with smugness. "Devin and I have an arrangement. Scott's gone so often, it's like the perfect setup. I get the stability and the nice gifts. Devin gets the fun without the commitment." "Melissa, you are so bad," Susan squealed, clearly delighted by this revelation. "You have to see this fucking ring though. Hold on, let me send you a picture." A pause. "See? Can you believe he spent that much on it?" Devin nearly pissed himself laughing when I showed him. My hand gripped the stair railing so hard my knuckles went white. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Just stood there listening to the woman I loved mock me, mock my choice of ring, mock my entire existence. "So what happens when Scott wants to set a wedding date?" Susan asked. "I'll figure something out, maybe a work opportunity I just can't pass up in another city. I don't know. I'm good at making men believe what I want them to believe." That's when I made a decision. I wouldn't yell, wouldn't confront her, wouldn't give her the satisfaction of seeing me hurt. I silently descended the stairs, went back to my car, and drove to a coffee shop. I sat there for about 20 minutes, thinking through my next steps. Then I realized I needed something crucial from the house. The ring. I waited until 9:15 when I knew Melissa would have left for work. I returned to our condo, went straight to her jewelry box where she kept the ring at night, and took it. I also grabbed a few essential items, my passport, birth certificate, and an external hard drive with my financial records. Then I left again, locking the door behind me. First, I called my best friend Marcus, explained everything in a flat, emotionless voice, asked if I could crash at his place for a few days. He agreed immediately. Then I called my bank, checking the status of our accounts. Melissa and I had one joint account for household expenses, but our main finances were separate. I transferred my portion out of the joint account, leaving exactly half of the monthly expenses. No more, no less. I called my landlord next, explained I needed to break my lease due to irreconcilable domestic issues. Since I'd been a model tenant for 2 years, he agreed to a 2-month penalty instead of the full 6 months stipulated in the contract. Then I turned to the ring. Google led me to a pawn shop about 30 minutes away. I drove there directly, the velvet box burning a hole in my pocket. "Looking to sell?" asked the owner, an older man with shrewd eyes. "Yes," I said, placing the box on the counter. He whistled when he opened it. "Nice piece. Recently purchased?" "6 months ago." He examined it carefully, checking the certification papers I'd included. "I can give you $9,500. The ring had cost me $22,000. But this wasn't about money. Deal. He processed the paperwork, handed me cash and a receipt. I asked for the receipt to be itemized, showing exactly what was sold, for how much. By the time I returned to our condo, it was nearly 2 p.m. Melissa would be in court until 6. Plenty of time. I packed methodically. Clothes, personal items, the family photos, and mementos that mattered to me. Filled my car. Made 3 trips to Marcus's apartment. Then came the real revenge. The cold, calculated kind. I accessed our shared cloud storage account, where we kept all our important documents and photos. I downloaded everything that was mine, then systematically deleted every photo of us together. Every vacation, every holiday, every casual selfie, gone. I left her solo photos untouched. She could have her history, but our history was erased. Next, I went through our shared calendar, where we'd already blocked out dates for wedding venue visits, caterer tastings, and other planning events. I deleted nothing. Instead, I added detailed, fabricated entries about visiting fertility clinics and adoption agencies, things we'd never discussed, appointments that didn't exist. Let her wonder what else she didn't know about our relationship. In the kitchen, I opened her favorite wine, a $300 bottle of Cabernet she'd been saving for a special occasion. Poured exactly 1 glass. Left it on the counter with her lipstick mark clearly visible on the rim. An impossible detail, since she'd been gone all day. A message that would make her question her own reality. I accessed her work laptop. She'd always left it unlocked at home, trusting me completely. I drafted an email to her entire office, including her boss, with the subject line, "My big news," and wrote a detailed announcement about her supposed pregnancy and immediate plans to leave the DA's office. I didn't send it, just saved it to drafts, where she'd eventually find it and panic about who might have seen it. I took the file she'd been preparing for weeks for a major case, her meticulous notes, carefully organized evidence, and rearranged every single page. Not obviously, just enough to throw off her rhythm, to make her second-guess her preparation when she was under pressure in court. Small things, precise things. Things that would register only to her, with a clarity that screamed, "I know what you did," and I was meticulous in my response. Finally, I took the original velvet ring box, placed the pawn shop receipt inside, along with a handwritten note. "Hope your ex can afford to buy it back." I left it on her pillow where she couldn't miss it. I left my key on the kitchen counter and walked out. When she got home that evening, she'd find no dramatic scene, no confrontation, just precisely orchestrated evidence that I knew everything, had removed myself from her life, and had done so with surgical precision. I didn't block her number. Wanted her to be able to reach out, to try to explain, to lie some more. I wanted to watch the performance. The first call came at 7:23 p.m. I didn't answer. The text started immediately after. Confusion at first, then panic, then anger. "Where are you? What is this receipt? Is this some kind of joke? Call me back right now? You can't just leave like this without talking to me. Whatever you think you heard, you misunderstood." By midnight, she'd left 17 voicemails and sent 34 texts. I listened to each message, read each text, and responded to none of them. The next day, she showed up at my office. I'd anticipated this, warned security. They escorted her out. She went to Marcus's apartment. He refused to let her in. She called my parents, who, already briefed by me, told her they weren't getting involved. She was persistent, I'll give her that. Sent emails to my work account, messages on every social platform we shared, even had flowers delivered to my office with tear-stained notes. A week passed. I maintained complete silence. Focused on work, on finding a new place to live, on rebuilding. Marcus was supportive, but concerned. "Dude, don't you think you should at least hear her out? What if there's some explanation?" "What explanation could possibly justify what she said?" I asked. He shrugged. "People say stupid shit sometimes, especially to impress friends." I dismissed his suggestion. The evidence was clear. Her words had been unambiguous. Then everything changed. 10 days after I left, I received an email from Susan, the friend Melissa had been talking to. Subject line, "You need to know the truth." I almost deleted it. Almost. But curiosity won. "Scott, you don't know me well, but I need to tell you something important. What Melissa said on the phone that day wasn't true. She's never slept with Devin since they broke up years ago. In fact, Devin moved to Australia 5 years ago, before you and Melissa even met, for a job opportunity and hasn't been back to the States since. She was lying to me. I know because I still follow Devin on Instagram. We were in the same study group in college, and he's been posting about his life in Sydney with his Australian wife and their new baby. Melissa was just trying to seem cool and rebellious to me and our other college friends. We're all idiots who glorify drama and bad decisions. She was trying to fit in with our toxic bullshit. What she did was wrong and horrible, but it wasn't what you think. She never cheated on you. She just lied about it, which is still terrible but different. I thought you should know." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I started investigating. A quick social media search confirmed it. Devin had indeed moved to Australia 5 years ago. His Instagram was filled with photos of Sydney Harbour, his Australian wife, their new baby, and their beachfront home. He hadn't been in the country since before Melissa and I even met. I found Devin's email through a mutual connection, contacted him directly. Scott? Melissa's Scott? Man, what the hell? She's been messaging my wife on Instagram crying, saying her life is ruined because of something involving me. She told her friend, "You two hook up whenever I'm out of town," I wrote. His response came quickly. "That's absolutely insane. I've been in Australia for 5 years, married for 3, and haven't even spoken to Melissa, except for the occasional comment on social media. I literally haven't been in the same country as her since before you two met. I have no idea why she would say that." I thanked him and ended the conversation. Called Susan next, who confirmed her email. Said Melissa had been trying to maintain a bad girl image with their college friend group for years. Said she'd admitted the truth in a breakdown 2 days after I left. Everything I thought I knew shifted. Melissa hadn't cheated. She'd just pretended she had. She'd mocked me, belittled me, disrespected me fundamentally, but not in the way I'd thought. I still haven't contacted her directly. But I did check in with Marcus, who said she comes by daily, crying, begging for a chance to explain. According to him, she's lost weight, looks like she hasn't slept in weeks. The case she was working on, the one whose files I rearranged, apparently went poorly, with her appearing disorganized and unprepared. Her boss had expressed concern about her mental state. Part of me feels vindicated. The cold, calculated way she spoke about me deserved a response in kind. The things she said can't be unsaid. But another part wonders if my reaction was disproportionate. She lied about cheating to impress a friend whose opinion she apparently valued more than my feelings or our relationship. That's a betrayal of trust, of respect, but not of fidelity. I destroyed a 3-year relationship, a planned future, a life we'd built. Did the crime warrant such an absolute punishment? It's been a month now. I've signed a lease on a new apartment, changed my phone number, moved on, externally at least. But these questions keep me up at night. Did I overreact? Or was her betrayal, different though it was from what I initially believed, still fundamentally unforgivable? I trusted this woman with my life, my future, my heart. She treated that trust like it was worthless, like I was a character in a story she was telling rather than the man she planned to marry. So I ask you, strangers on the internet, was I justified? Or did I destroy something that might have been salvageable? Update. 2 weeks later. First, thank you all for the overwhelming response. I've read every comment and your perspectives have been invaluable. After much reflection, I decided to meet with Melissa in a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown. 3 conditions: public place, limited time, 1 hour, and no expectation of reconciliation. Just closure. She agreed immediately. When I arrived, she was already there, hands wrapped around a mug, looking smaller somehow. She'd lost weight, and her eyes had dark circles beneath them. For the first time, I let her speak without interruption. "What I said was inexcusable," she began. "I have no justification that makes it okay. I lied to Susan because I was insecure. Our college friends, they're all either having affairs or divorcing or in these dramatic relationships. My stable, loving relationship with you made me feel boring to them. So I invented drama where there was none." She explained that Susan and their friend group subtly mocked anyone in a healthy relationship. Described how she'd felt increasing pressure to have interesting Susans to share. How one small lie had snowballed into the conversation I overheard. "I never cheated on you. Not once, not ever," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I loved you completely. Still do. But I betrayed your trust in a different way, and I understand why you left." I asked the question that had been haunting me. If you valued their opinions so much that you disrespect me to impress them, how could our relationship ever work? "It wouldn't," she admitted quietly. "I've spent every day since you left realizing how twisted my priorities were. I've cut ties with Susan and that entire friend group, started therapy to understand why I would sabotage something precious for validation from people who don't actually care about me." She also addressed the professional fallout from my revenge. The rearranged case files had caused her significant embarrassment in court. The draft email I'd left on her computer had given her a panic attack when she found it. The wine glass had made her question if someone had been in their home. My calculated response had hit every target perfectly. "You're very good at what you do," she said quietly, referencing my forensic accounting skills. "You dismantled my life with surgical precision." We talked for the full hour. No raised voices, no dramatic scenes, just two people picking through the rubble of what we'd built and lost. In the end, I told her I forgave her, but that forgiveness didn't mean reconciliation. The trust was broken. Not because she'd cheated, but because she'd revealed a fundamental disrespect that couldn't be undone. She asked if I'd ever consider trying again. I told her honestly that I didn't know, that we both needed time and space to grow separately before that question could even be approached. As for the ring, she'd actually gone to the pawn shop the day after finding my note, bought it back at a significant markup. She brought it with her to our meeting, tried to return it. I refused, told her to keep it, sell it, donate it, whatever gave her closure. She nodded, understanding the finality in my words. We parted with a brief hug that felt like a period at the end of a complex sentence. Not angry anymore, just finished. I'm moving forward. Changed positions at work to reduce my travel. Started rock climbing, something I'd always wanted to try but never made time for. Reconnected with friends I'd neglected. Many of you asked if my revenge went too far. After reflection, I stand by most of my actions. The silent departure, the division of assets, the pawnshop receipt. All proportionate responses to the disrespect she showed me. The more subtle acts, rearranging her case files, the draft email, the wine glass trick, may have crossed into psychological warfare, but they were precise expressions of hurt rather than broad destruction. What I regret is not giving her a chance to explain before I executed my exit strategy. One conversation might have revealed the truth sooner and saved us both weeks of additional pain. That said, I'm not sure it would have changed my decision to leave. A partner who would mock me to impress others has revealed something fundamental about their character and priorities. That revelation can't be undone, even if the specific offense was different than I initially believed. Thank you again for your insights and support. This chapter of my life is closing, and while the ending wasn't what I expected, I'm at peace with it. Final update 3 months later. This will be my last post on this situation, as there's been a resolution of sorts. Melissa and I have had several more conversations over the past months, each meeting more measured and honest than the last. She's continued therapy, made significant changes in her life, let go of toxic friendships, changed jobs, focused on building authentic relationships. I've done my own work too, understood why I reacted so extremely to her betrayal, how my parents' turbulent marriage left me with a hair-trigger response to any form of deception. We've been dating again, cautiously, starting fresh rather than trying to rebuild what was broken. Different rules, different boundaries, different expectations. The ring remains with her, but not as an engagement symbol. More like a reminder of how easily something valuable can be lost through carelessness. I don't know if we'll make it long term. There's still work to do on both sides. Trust rebuilds slowly, like a bone healing after a clean break, stronger at the fracture point, but forever marked by the injury. What I do know is this: sometimes the most brutal revenge isn't necessary. Sometimes people deserve a second chance, not because what they did wasn't wrong, but because what they do afterward demonstrates genuine change. That said, I have zero regrets about how I handled the initial situation. The shock of my departure, the meticulousness of my response, these created the rupture necessary for authentic transformation on both sides. Sometimes relationships don't end because they're beyond repair. They end because they need to be rebuilt from the foundation up. Whether Melissa and I ultimately succeed doesn't matter as much as the fact that we're both becoming better people through this process. More honest, more direct, more aware of our own patterns and triggers. For those facing similar betrayals, trust your instincts, but verify your facts. Respond with purpose rather than pure emotion. And remember that forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, whether or not you choose to continue the relationship. I'll end with this. The pawnshop owner recognized Melissa when she came to buy back the ring. Told her I'd been completely stoic when selling it. No anger, no sadness, just calm determination. She said that image haunted her more than if I'd raged or cried. The quiet dignity of someone who knows exactly what they deserve. Whatever happens next, I intend to maintain that dignity. Not out of pride, but out of self-respect. Thank you all one last time for being witnesses to this chapter of my life. Your collective wisdom helped guide me through the darkest moments towards something I never expected. Not just survival, but growth. Edit. To those asking about the specific revenge tactics I employed, yes, finding the draft pregnancy announcement email nearly gave her a heart attack, and the rearranged case files significantly damaged her reputation at work temporarily. The wine glass trick apparently had her installing security cameras and checking for signs of intrusion for weeks. These weren't grand, destructive gestures, just precisely targeted strikes that made her feel exactly what I felt: betrayed, off balance, and questioning everything she thought she knew. I don't necessarily recommend these specific actions to others, but I don't regret them either. Sometimes the most effective message is delivered without words. My fiancé laughed and said, "Just so you know, my money's off limits even after marriage." I smiled. Then I slid the ring off her finger and walked out of the prenup meeting. A week later, she was at my office in tears, saying she'd thought I was joking. Hey viewers, real quick, only 8% of you watching are subscribed, and the channel's kind of stuck right now. If you enjoy these stories, hitting that subscribe button would really help us keep going. Thanks. 2 weeks ago, I found out exactly how my fiancé viewed our upcoming marriage. Still can't believe how fast everything unraveled, but the warning signs were probably there all along. Sarah and I had been engaged for 8 months, together for 3 years total. Met her through mutual friends at a barbecue, hit it off immediately. She was smart, funny, gorgeous, and seemed like someone I could build a life with. Proposed last summer at the beach house her family rented every year. The wedding was supposed to be in 6 weeks. We'd already sent invitations, booked the venue, ordered flowers, the whole thing. Sarah had been planning every detail for months, talking about colors and centerpieces and seating charts constantly. I figured that meant she was excited about getting married. Turned out she was excited about having a wedding. Getting married was apparently a different story. Sarah works in pharmaceutical sales and makes about $130,000 a year. I teach high school history and make $48,000. She's always been proud of her salary and financial independence, which I respected. Never had any issues with her making more money. If anything, I thought it was great that we'd both be contributing to our future together. That's why what happened at the prenup meeting caught me completely off guard. Sarah had insisted we needed a prenuptial agreement because of the income difference. Made sense to me. Protect both our interests, make sure everything was clear and fair. We each hired our own lawyers to represent us separately and negotiate terms. The meetings had been going on for 3 weeks. Standard stuff about protecting assets acquired before marriage, how we'd handle joint purchases, what would happen if we ever divorced. Both lawyers were working together to create something fair for both of us. We scheduled what was supposed to be the final signing meeting for last Tuesday afternoon. Sarah's lawyer had incorporated all the agreed-upon terms. My lawyer had reviewed everything and given approval. Pretty routine finalizing of details we'd already negotiated. Walking into that conference room, I thought we were just putting signatures on a document that protected both of us fairly. Sarah seemed relaxed and confident, joking with her lawyer about wedding stress and honeymoon plans. Her lawyer started going through the final agreement page by page. Asset protection, debt responsibility, property ownership, all the legal framework for how our marriage would work financially. Sarah was nodding along, looking satisfied with how everything had been structured. Then we got to the section about joint financial decision-making for major purchases during marriage. This had been something my lawyer insisted on including. Language about purchases over $10,000, requiring both spouses to agree. Standard marriage partnership protection, nothing unusual. Sarah's lawyer had agreed to it weeks earlier without any objection. But when her lawyer read that section aloud for final confirmation, Sarah started laughing like she'd heard the funniest joke ever. "Wait, hold on. Just so you know, David, my money's off limits even after marriage. I'm not giving you veto power over how I spend my own salary." I thought she was making a joke about the formal legal language. "What do you mean off limits?" "I mean my salary, my savings, my investment accounts, All of it stays under my complete control. I'll pay my share of household expenses, obviously, but major financial decisions about my money stay with me alone. Her lawyer looked confused. Sarah, we discussed this provision 3 weeks ago. You approved the joint decision language for large purchases. I approved it for his purchases, not mine. My lawyer spoke up. Mrs. Patterson, the agreement applies to both parties equally. Neither spouse can make major financial decisions unilaterally. Then change it. My money, my decisions. The room went quiet. Both lawyers were looking at each other like they'd never encountered this before. Sarah, I said slowly, we're supposed to be partners. That's kind of the point of getting married. We are partners. I'm just not giving anyone else control over money I earned. I'm not talking about control. I'm talking about making decisions together as a team. Same difference. What I do with my salary is my business. She was completely serious. No joking around, no negotiation, just a flat declaration that the agreement we'd spent weeks creating didn't apply to her money. So let me understand this, my lawyer said. You want Mr. Harrison bound by joint decision requirements, but you want complete freedom to spend your money however you choose? Exactly. I've worked hard to get where I am financially. I'm not letting anyone else dictate how I spend what I earn. Sarah, that's not what marriage partnership means, I said. That's what this marriage means. Take it or leave it. The room went dead silent. Sarah was staring at me with this challenging expression, like she was daring me to object to her terms. Both lawyers were looking uncomfortable with how this was playing out. Take it or leave it. 3 years together, 8 months engaged, 6 weeks before our wedding, and she was giving me an ultimatum about something we'd supposedly already agreed on. I smiled at her. That's an interesting way to look at marriage. I'm glad you understand. I understand perfectly. I reached across the table and gently slid the engagement ring off her finger. Sarah's eyes went wide with shock. What are you doing? Taking your advice. I'm leaving it. David, what are you talking about? I stood up and put the ring in my pocket. If you want complete financial independence from your spouse, you should probably stay unmarried. Makes everything much simpler. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. You just announced that you want marriage with separate finances and no joint decision-making. That's not a marriage. That's an expensive roommate situation. David, sit down. We can modify the agreement. There's nothing to modify. You made your position very clear. Your money is off limits, even to your husband. I respect that choice. I didn't mean it like that. You meant it exactly like that. And now you get to keep your money completely separate from anyone else's input. Sarah looked panicked. David, please, let's just finish the meeting and discuss this privately. The meeting's over for me. You've made it clear what kind of marriage you want, and it's not the kind I'm interested in. Her lawyer finally spoke up. Mr. Harrison, perhaps we should reschedule when everyone's had time to reconsider. I don't need time to reconsider. Sarah was very clear about wanting financial independence even after marriage. She should have that. I walked toward the door. Sarah was still sitting there looking stunned. David, you're being ridiculous. Come back and let's work this out. Work what out? You said take it or leave it. I'm taking your advice. I didn't mean literally leave. When someone gives you an ultimatum about marriage, sometimes they get an answer they weren't expecting. I left the conference room and drove straight home. Spent the evening calling vendors about cancellation policies. Since we'd split all the wedding costs 50-50, I could cancel my portions without Sarah's consent. Lost about $8,000 in non-refundable deposits on my half, but that was fine. Sarah called about 2 hours after I got home. David, what did you do today? Started canceling my portion of our wedding expenses. You what? Canceled my half of the wedding. Since you don't actually want to be married partners, seemed like the logical next step. I do want to be married. I just want to maintain some financial independence. Complete financial independence. Your exact words were that your money is off limits even after marriage. I was being dramatic. We can compromise on this. There's no compromise position between joint decisions and off-limits money, Sarah. Yes, there is. We can set higher thresholds or create exceptions or something. You said take it or leave it. You weren't interested in compromise 30 minutes ago. She kept calling throughout the week. Left voicemails about how I was overreacting, how we could work through this, how she hadn't meant it the way it sounded. But I'd heard exactly what she meant. Sarah wanted the social status and security of marriage without actually being married partners. Word got out pretty quickly about the canceled wedding. Sarah's friends started calling, asking what happened. I told them the truth. Sarah had announced at our prenup signing that her finances would remain off limits even to her husband, and I decided that wasn't the kind of partnership I wanted. Most people were shocked. Apparently, Sarah had never mentioned her financial independence philosophy to anyone else either. Her maid of honor called me 3 days after the prenup meeting. "David, Sarah's telling everyone you called off the wedding because you wanted control over her money." That's not what happened. I called off the wedding because she announced her money would be off limits to her husband. She said what? Word for word. Her money's off limits, even after marriage. Take it or leave it. In front of lawyers? In front of both our lawyers while we were supposed to be signing the final agreement. No wonder you left. I would have done the same thing. By Friday, Sarah's own family was calling to ask what had really happened. Apparently, she told them I'd gotten controlling about her finances. I explained what actually occurred at the prenup signing. Her mom called me Saturday morning. "David, I'm so sorry. Sarah never mentioned anything about keeping her money completely separate after marriage. I didn't know about it either until Tuesday. That's not how we raised her to think about marriage partnerships." "I know, Mrs. Chen. You guys have always been great examples of teamwork. Is there any way you two can work this out?" "Not unless Sarah changes her fundamental view of what marriage means. She's been calling us upset all week. I'm sure she has, but she made her position very clear. Her money is off limits, even to her husband." The following Tuesday, I'm teaching third period when the school secretary comes to my classroom door. She whispers that I have an emergency visitor in the office and need to come immediately. I get to the office and find Sarah sitting in the waiting area looking like she'd been crying for hours, wearing sweatpants and a wrinkled shirt, hair in a messy ponytail, just completely disheveled. "David, thank God. We need to talk." "Sarah, you can't just show up at my school. This is my workplace. You won't return my calls. This was the only way to reach you. There's nothing to talk about. You made your position clear at the prenup signing. I was wrong. I was scared about losing my independence, and I said things I didn't mean. You weren't scared. You were honest, and that honesty showed us we want different things from marriage. I don't want different things. I want a real partnership with you. No, you want the social benefits of marriage while maintaining complete financial control. That's not partnership. David, please. I've been thinking about this all week. I was being selfish and short-sighted. You were being clear about your expectations. Nothing wrong with knowing what you want. There's everything wrong with how I handled it. I love you and I want to marry you and build a life together. You love the idea of being married, but you don't actually want to be married to me." The school secretary was trying to pretend she wasn't listening. Other staff members were walking by, glancing at the situation unfolding in the office. "Sarah, this really isn't appropriate. I need to get back to class. Then meet me after school. Please, just give me a chance to explain." "Explain what? You stood in a room with 2 lawyers and announced that your money would be off limits to your husband. That wasn't a slip of the tongue. It was a panic reaction. I got scared about giving up control. And now you don't have to give up control to anyone. Problem solved. David, I'm begging you. Please give us another chance." "A chance for what? For you to pretend you want financial partnership until after the wedding?" "To prove that I do want real partnership, I'll sign any agreement you want." "Sarah, you revealed your true feelings about marriage. Don't try to take that back now just because you realize the consequences. My true feelings are that I love you and want to be your wife. Your true feelings are that you want to be married while keeping your money completely separate from your husband. Find someone who shares that view." The principal had come out of his office looking concerned about the disruption. I needed to end this before it became an even bigger scene. "Sarah, you have to leave. I'm at work and this isn't appropriate." "David, Please don't throw away 3 years because of one conversation. I'm not throwing away 3 years. I'm avoiding a lifetime of financial conflict with someone who doesn't view marriage the same way I do. I do view it the same way now. No, you don't, and that's okay, but it means we're not compatible for marriage. She left crying, but at least she left. I spent the rest of the day fielding questions from colleagues who'd witnessed the scene. Most were supportive once they heard what had actually happened at the prenup meeting. That was a week ago. Sarah's been texting constantly about working things out, but I haven't responded. Her friends keep reaching out asking if I'll reconsider, but my position hasn't changed. If someone tells you their money is off limits even after marriage, believe them the first time. Don't wait around hoping they'll change their mind or that they didn't really mean it. Sarah showed me exactly how she viewed our future marriage. As a social arrangement where she'd maintain complete financial independence, while I provided emotional partnership under joint decision restrictions. That's not a marriage, that's an unfair contract. The wedding would have cost us about $24,000 total. I lost about $8,000 in deposits on my half, but $8,000 is a bargain compared to divorcing someone who never intended to be an actual partner. Sarah wanted a marriage where her money stayed off limits to her husband. Now she gets to keep her money completely off limits to everyone. Sometimes people get exactly what they ask for. I caught her sneaking out of my apartment at 2 a.m. She glared and said, "You don't own me. I'll be back when I feel like it." I just nodded, but when she came back days later, someone was waiting for her inside, and it wasn't me. The click of the deadbolt was what woke me. It was 2:17 a.m. on a Tuesday, and the sound was wrong, too quiet, too deliberate. I saw her silhouette slip out of the bedroom, fully dressed. When I caught her at the front door, bag in hand, she didn't look guilty. She looked annoyed. Annoyed that I'd woken up. She glared at me, her eyes cold and defiant in the dim light of the hallway. "You don't own me, Mark," she hissed. "I'll be back when I feel like it." I didn't yell. I didn't ask where she was going. I just stood there, watched her close the door behind her, and nodded once to the empty space where she had been. She thought she was making a statement about her freedom. She thought she could treat my home like a hotel, and me like the concierge. What she didn't know was that with that one sentence, she had just checked out. Permanently. And when she decided she felt like coming back, she wasn't going to find me. She was going to find the one person in the world she was terrified of, sitting on my couch, waiting to finally teach her the lesson about consequences she'd been avoiding her entire life. My line of work is security consulting. I spend my days analyzing threats, identifying vulnerabilities, and creating systems to protect valuable assets. My entire career is built on seeing things that other people miss and acting decisively before a situation gets out of control. It's ironic, then, that the biggest security breach of my life was sleeping in my bed for the last 6 months. I'm 39. I own my apartment in a secure, high-end building. My life is orderly, disciplined, and calm. Or it was until Maya. I met her a year ago. She's 32, a whirlwind of chaotic energy who works as a freelance graphic designer, taking just enough jobs to fund her experiences. She called herself a free spirit. I thought it was charming. I saw her as a vibrant, exciting contrast to my structured life. Looking back, I was just a mark, confusing a lack of character for a personality. She moved in 6 months ago. It was her idea. Her lease was up, and she spun a story about wanting to be more serious, about building a real life with me. I agreed, with one condition. She had to contribute. Not much, just a small, fixed amount towards utilities and groceries. I wasn't looking for a freeloader. She agreed, but the money was always late, always accompanied by an excuse. I let it slide. That was my first mistake. I was treating a vulnerability as an acceptable risk. The late nights started about 2 months ago. She'd come home smelling of smoke and cheap beer, long after I was asleep. When I'd ask where she'd been, she'd get defensive. "I was out with friends, Mark. You're not my warden." She'd use words like suffocating and controlling when all I was doing was asking a simple question. The red flags were there, waving in my face, but I ignored them. I was emotionally invested, and it was clouding my judgment. Then came last Tuesday. The click of the lock. It was a professional's touch, slow and quiet, meant to be unheard. But I'm a light sleeper. I got out of bed and walked to the hallway. She was there, at the front door, dressed in jeans and a leather jacket, her purse slung over her shoulder. She was frozen like a deer in headlights, one hand on the doorknob. The confrontation was short and brutal. There was no room for misunderstanding. "Going somewhere?" I asked, my voice flat. Her fear instantly morphed into anger. It was a classic deflection tactic. "I don't have to report my movements to you," she snapped. "At 2 in the morning without a word? In the apartment we share?" "Yeah, you do." That's when she delivered the line that severed everything. She took a step towards me, her face a mask of contempt. "You don't own me, Mark. I'll be back when I feel like it." And then she was gone. The door clicked shut and I was left standing in the silence. The hurt was there, a deep, cold ache. But my professional instincts took over. A breach had occurred. The asset, my home, my life, my peace, was compromised. The threat needed to be neutralized. I didn't call her. I didn't text. I let her walk right into the consequences I was about to build for her. My first move was to secure the perimeter. I have a state-of-the-art security system in my apartment. I logged into the admin panel on my computer. I deactivated her key fob and her entry code. I changed the master code. As of 2:25 a.m., she was physically locked out of the building and the apartment. My second move was to cut off her internal access. I logged into our shared accounts, the phone bill, which was under my name, the streaming services, the Amazon Prime account. I changed every password and removed her as an authorized user. Her comfortable, subsidized life was being systematically dismantled. My third and final move was the most important. It was the one she would never see coming. I thought about who she was, what she valued. She valued her so-called freedom, which was really just an escape from responsibility. And who in her life represented the opposite of that? Who was the one person she complained about, the one person whose judgment she feared? Her father, General David Miller, retired. A man who spent 30 years in the military, a man who believed in discipline, accountability, and order above all else. Maya had spent her entire adult life running from his rigid expectations. She had moved across the country to get away from him. He still paid her car insurance and phone bill, a fact she conveniently omitted when she talked about her independence. I had his number from a brief, formal meeting we'd had last Christmas. I picked up my phone and called him. It was nearly midnight his time, but I knew he'd be awake. He answered on the second ring, his voice sharp and alert. "Miller." "General," I said, my voice calm and respectful. "This is Mark. I apologize for the late hour, but I'm facing a situation with Maya, and I believe you need to be aware of it." I laid it out for him. No emotion, just facts. I told him about her sneaking out, her statement, and the fact that our relationship was now over. I told him that I had secured my apartment and that she would not be able to re-enter. I told him that, as of this moment, his daughter was effectively homeless. He was silent on the other end for a long time. I could hear him breathing, processing the information. "She has a history of this kind of behavior, Mark," he finally said, his voice heavy with a disappointment that sounded decades old. "Running away when things get difficult." "I understand that, sir," I said. "But my home can no longer be her crash pad. She needs to come home. To you." "What are you proposing?" he asked. "I'm proposing a solution," I said. "I will pack her belongings. You fly here and you take her home. Red, you're the only one she can't run from." Another long pause. "When?" She said she'll be back when she feels like it. "My guess is 2 or 3 days, after her fund runs out. Can you be here by Friday?" "I'll be on the first flight tomorrow morning," he said, and the line went dead. The trap was set. Maya was out there, living her free-spirited fantasy, with no idea that her greatest fear was flying across the country to come and collect her. She wasn't just going to lose her place to live. She was going to lose her illusion of freedom. Update 1, 3 days later. The support from this community has been a solid data point in an otherwise chaotic situation. It confirms my initial assessment that a line was crossed from which there is no return. The last 3 days have been a study in methodical execution. General Miller arrived on Wednesday morning, exactly as promised. He's an imposing man, even in civilian clothes. He carries himself with an unshakable sense of authority. We shook hands at the door to my apartment, and there was a moment of silent, mutual understanding. We were 2 men dealing with the same problem from different angles. I appreciate you handling this with a level head, Mark, he said, his eyes scanning the apartment, noting its order and cleanliness. I'm just neutralizing a threat to my security, General, I replied. We spent the next 2 days packing Maya's life into boxes. It was a strange, almost clinical process. The General was ruthlessly efficient. He sorted her clothes, her art supplies, her half-finished projects, with a kind of grim determination. He found things that even I hadn't seen. A stash of credit card bills, all maxed out and hidden in a shoebox. A diary filled with angry rants about how stifling her life was, how she deserved more. He didn't comment on any of it. He just packed it all away. During that time, we talked. He told me about Maya's childhood, about her constant rebellion against any form of structure. He told me about the string of failed jobs, the unpaid loans, the trail of chaos she had left in her wake. He had hoped I would be the one to finally ground her. I think, he said, taping up a box of her shoes, she mistook your stability for a safety net she could jump from, instead of a foundation she could build on. He was right. Maya's return came on Friday afternoon, almost exactly 72 hours after she had left. My security system alerted me that my doorman had called up, saying Maya was in the lobby demanding access. I told him not to let her up, that she was no longer a resident. A few minutes later, my phone started ringing. It was her. I ignored it. Then came the texts. First angry, then confused, then pleading. Mark, what is going on? The doorman won't let me up. Why is my key fob not working? Did you seriously lock me out? This isn't funny. Mark, please, my phone is about to die. I have nowhere to go. Just let me in so we can talk. I didn't respond. I just sat in the living room with the General, watching the messages come in. He looked at his phone, then at me. She's calling me now, he said. He answered, putting it on speaker. Dad? Maya's voice was frantic, on the verge of tears. Something's wrong with Mark. He's locked me out of the apartment. Can you call him? He's not answering my calls. I know he's not, Maya, the General said, his voice like granite. I'm in his apartment right now. The silence on the other end was absolute. I could picture her face, the dawning horror, as she processed what he had just said. What? She whispered. I'm here to take you home, he said. Mark and I have had a long talk. Your little vacation is over. Come up to the apartment. The doorman will let you up now. He hung up. 5 minutes later, the doorbell rang. I opened it. She was standing there, looking pale and disheveled. Her eyes darted from me to her father, who was now standing in the entryway, his arms crossed. The fight went out of her instantly. The defiant, arrogant woman who had stormed out of my apartment 3 days ago was gone, replaced by a sullen, defeated child. What is he doing here? She asked, her voice barely audible. He's here because you are no longer my responsibility, I said. You said you'd be back when you felt like it. You gave up your right to live here. Your father has graciously offered to take you in. You called my dad? She shrieked, the anger returning. You went behind my back and called my father? You have no right. It was the General who answered her. He has every right, Maya. It's his home. You treated it and him with zero respect. You've been living in a fantasy world, and it ends today. Your things are packed. We have a flight back home tomorrow morning at 0800. She tried to argue, to cry, to manipulate. She turned to me, pleading. Mark, please, I made a mistake. I was stupid. Don't do this. It's already done, Maya, I said. I pointed to the neat stack of boxes that lined the hallway. Your new life starts now. She spent the night in the guest room. The door closed. The General slept on the couch. The apartment was filled with a tense, heavy silence. She didn't come out. She didn't eat. She just stayed in that room, a prisoner of the consequences she had created. The free spirit was finally grounded. Update 2. 2 weeks later. It has been 2 weeks since I drove Maya and her father to the airport. The silence in my apartment is no longer tense. It's clean. It's the sound of order being restored. Thank you for following this story and for the insightful comments. It's clear this kind of behavior is more common than I thought. The flight home, according to a brief professional follow-up call from the General, was unpleasant. Maya was apparently sullen and hostile, refusing to speak to him. When they arrived at her parents' home, the reality of her new situation began to set in. Her father, true to his word, had laid down the law. Her freelance career, which consisted of a few small projects a month, was not a real job. She had 30 days to find full-time employment. Her nights of going out and coming home whenever she pleased were over. She had a curfew. She was expected to contribute to the household, to clean, to cook. She was, for the first time in her adult life, being treated like an adult with responsibilities, and she was not handling it well. Her attempt to rally support and paint me as the villain failed spectacularly. She called her friends, the ones she had likely been out with on the night she left. She spun a tale of a controlling, obsessive ex who had locked her out and called her father to have her dragged away. It didn't work. One of her friends, a woman named Sarah, who I had always thought was the most level-headed of the group, actually called me. She apologized. "I need to be honest, Mark," she said. "We all knew she was seeing someone else. We told her she was playing with fire. She has a pattern of doing this, of using people for stability and then getting bored. What you did, honestly, it's probably the best thing that could have happened to her." That phone call was more validating than anything else. It confirmed that this wasn't a one-time mistake. This was who she was. The man she had been sneaking out to see has, predictably, vanished from the picture. He was a bartender at a dive bar she and her friends frequented. He was part of the experience, the thrill of rebellion. He wasn't interested in a long-distance relationship with a broke, unemployed woman living with her parents under a strict curfew. He stopped answering her calls within a week. My life, in contrast, has been a return to productive normalcy. I've deep-cleaned the apartment, getting rid of the last traces of her presence. I sold the ridiculously uncomfortable couch she had insisted on buying and replaced it with a classic leather one. I've been focusing on my work, landing a major new client that will require all of my attention for the next few months. The focus is welcome. It's clean, logical, and the outcomes are predictable. I did have one final piece of business to handle. Maya had left behind a few valuable items, including a laptop and some professional camera equipment that I had bought for her to help her with her design business. Her father called and asked what I wanted to do with them. I told him to sell them. "Use the money to pay back the security deposit on her last apartment," I said. I know for a fact she never paid it. There was a pause on the other end. "How did you know that?" the general asked. "It's my job to know things." I said, "Tell her the rest of the money can be a severance package." The message was clear. I was not just ending our personal relationship. I was closing every loophole, every last vestige of her dependency on me. The final invoice was being paid. Final update, 3 months later. It's been 3 months. The seasons are changing, and so has my life, entirely for the better. The chapter on Maya is well and truly closed, and the ending is more fitting than I could have written myself. The reports I get, indirectly through a chain of acquaintances, paint a grim picture of Maya's new reality. Life under her father's roof has been a brutal awakening. She did get a job, as mandated. She's a junior designer at a small local advertising agency, earning an entry-level salary. The days of working a few hours a week and spending the rest of her time on experiences are over. She works 9 to 5, has a commute, and has to answer to a boss. It is, by all accounts, her personal version of hell. Her relationship with her father is strained to the breaking point. She resents him for his control, and he is deeply disappointed in her lack of character. She is, for the first time, being forced to live within her means, and she is discovering that her means are far more modest than she ever believed. She tried to reach out to me about a month ago. A long, rambling email found its way to my junk folder. It was a classic manipulation attempt, filled with phrases like, "You were my rock," and "I didn't know how good I had it." She blamed her behavior on fear of commitment, on her upbringing, on everything but herself. She ended it by saying she had changed, that she was finally growing up, and asked if we could just talk. I deleted it without a reply. People don't change because they're forced into a new situation. They change when they take responsibility for getting themselves there. She wasn't taking responsibility. She was just looking for an escape route from the consequences. The most satisfying part of this whole ordeal wasn't the confrontation. It was the quiet, methodical process of reclaiming my life. The revenge wasn't a loud, explosive event. It was a silent, strategic removal of a threat. I identified the vulnerability, assessed the risk, and executed a plan to neutralize it. She thought her power was in her defiance, in her ability to come and go as she pleased. She never understood that real power lies in stability, in self-sufficiency, in the quiet confidence of a man who owns his own life. I didn't need to scream or rage to win. I just needed to make one phone call and let the natural order of her life reassert itself. I'm seeing someone new now. An architect. She's brilliant, driven, and her life is as well structured as the buildings she designs. We have conversations about foundations, about integrity, about building things that last. When she stays the night, she doesn't sneak out. She's there in the morning, making coffee, talking about our plans for the day. It's a partnership, not a sponsorship. Maya's final desperate act was to tell people I had ruined her life. But I didn't. I just stopped letting her ruin mine. I opened the door, and she walked out of it. Her father was just the consequence waiting on the other side. She said I didn't own her. And she was right, but she didn't own me either. And the moment she forgot that, the game was over. She just didn't know it yet. Her mom called me a failure at Thanksgiving dinner. I defended my career. She snapped, "Don't talk back to my mother or get out." I nodded. I didn't argue, but when she returned to our empty apartment 3 days later, she finally learned I took get out literally. You ever have one of those moments where everything you thought you knew about someone just shatters? Like glass hitting concrete. That was me at Thanksgiving dinner, watching my fiancée choose her mother over me, after her mother spent 20 minutes explaining why I'm a failure at life. Let me back up. I'm 29, software engineer, not fancy tech bro working at Google or whatever, just solid middle-class work at a regional financial services company. Make about $92,000 a year, own a decent car, rent a nice 2-bedroom apartment, have a 401k. No debt except a small car payment. Pretty standard millennial success story, I thought. My fiancée, ex-fiancée now, but we'll get there. Her name's Jennifer. We'd been together 2.5 years. She's a nurse, pediatric ICU, makes around $78,000. We met at a friend's barbecue, hit it off immediately. She was smart, funny, gorgeous. Blonde hair, green eyes, killer smile. The kind of woman who lights up a room when she walks in. We moved in together after a year. My apartment. I'd had it for 3 years before we met. My name on the lease. She moved her stuff in, started contributing to groceries and utilities. We split those costs. I paid rent since it was my place. Worked out fine. Everything about Jennifer was perfect except one thing. Margaret. That's the mom. And from the stories Jennifer told, Margaret was a piece of work. Controlling, critical. Never satisfied with anything Jennifer did. Always comparing her to other people's kids. Classic toxic parent behavior. Jennifer would come home from visiting her mom, stressed out and upset. Margaret would criticize her weight. Jennifer's a size 6, absolutely nothing wrong with her. Her career choices, somehow being a pediatric ICU nurse wasn't good enough. Her apartment, my apartment technically. Her car, her friends, everything. She just wants the best for me, Jennifer would say. She doesn't know how to express love except through criticism. I learned to tune it out years ago. You just can't take her seriously. Red flag? Yeah, probably. But I loved Jennifer, and I figured her mom lives 2 states away. How bad could it really be? We'd been together 2.5 years, and I'd never even met Margaret. Jennifer always visited her alone, said it was easier that way, that her mom could be a lot for people who didn't grow up with her. Should have listened to that warning. I proposed to Jennifer 6 months ago. Nothing crazy expensive, $4,800 ring, which was reasonable on my salary. Jennifer cried happy tears, said yes immediately. We set a wedding date for next summer. Started planning. Everything was good. Then came Thanksgiving. Jennifer's brother was hosting this year. He lives about an hour from us. Married, 2 kids, nice house in the suburbs. Jennifer had been talking about this Thanksgiving for weeks because it would be the first time I'd meet her mother. Margaret was flying in from Arizona. Just be prepared, Jennifer warned me the week before. Mom's probably going to say something rude. She does that to everyone the first time she meets them. It's like a test. She wants to see how you react. What kind of rude? I don't know. She'll find something. Your job, your car, your clothes, whatever. Just don't take it personally. Smile and change the subject. That's what my brother's wife does. Your brother's wife has been dealing with this for how long? 7 years. 7 years of smiling and changing the subject around a woman who deliberately insults people. Great. Maybe I should defend myself if she insults me, I said. No, that makes it worse. She wants a reaction. If you engage, she'll double down. Trust me, just let it roll off. I'll run interference if it gets bad. That should have been red flag number 2. My fiancée was already planning to run interference with her own mother at Thanksgiving dinner. But I loved her. I wanted to marry her. I could handle one dinner with a difficult mother-in-law. Spoiler, I could not, in fact, handle it. Thanksgiving Day. We drove to her brother's place. Nice house. Like really nice. He's some kind of corporate finance guy, makes way more than me, which became relevant later. Margaret was already there when we arrived. Early 60s. Blonde hair like Jennifer's but styled into one of those helmet-looking cuts that requires weekly salon visits. Expensive clothes. Jewelry that probably cost more than my car. She looked at me the way you'd look at something stuck to your shoe. So you're the fiancé, she said. Not a question, a statement, an accusation almost. That's me. Nice to meet you, Mrs. Patterson. It's Dr. Patterson. I have a PhD. Oh, sorry, Dr. Patterson. In economics, from Stanford. That's impressive. She looked at Jennifer. You didn't tell him I have a doctorate? I did, Mom. He probably forgot. I definitely didn't forget. Jennifer had never mentioned her mother having a PhD, but sure, let's go with that. Dinner started out okay. Jennifer's brother Kevin and his wife Rachel were nice. Their kids were cute. The food was good. Normal Thanksgiving stuff. Then we got to the dessert course. Margaret had been asking everyone about their jobs. Kevin talked about his promotion. Rachel talked about her real estate business. I was hoping we'd somehow skip me. We did not skip me. And what is it you do again? Margaret asked me. She knew what I did. Jennifer had definitely told her. But she wanted me to say it. I'm a software engineer. For what company? Redstone Financial Services. She wrinkled her nose like I'd said I cleaned septic tanks. Never heard of it. We're regional, based here in the city. We do financial software for mid-sized businesses. So not Google, not Microsoft, not Amazon. No, ma'am. And your salary? If you don't mind me asking. Jennifer jumped in. Mom, that's personal. I'm just trying to understand what kind of life my daughter will have. It's a reasonable question for a mother to ask her daughter's fiancé. I should have kept my mouth shut. Jennifer shot me a look that clearly said, don't answer. But Margaret was staring at me, waiting, and everyone at the table was silent. I make around $92,000 a year. The way Margaret's face changed, like I just admitted to minimum wage. 92,000, she said it slowly. In your late 20s. I'm 29, yes ma'am. Kevin was making 6 figures by 26. Kevin looked uncomfortable. Mom, different industries have different scales. I'm just stating facts. Your sister is a pediatric ICU nurse. Do you know how hard she works? How much stress she's under? She saves children's lives. And she's going to marry someone who makes $92,000 doing, what did you call it? Regional financial software? Mom. Jennifer's voice had an edge now. What? I'm not allowed to have concerns? Jennifer, you're a beautiful, intelligent woman. You could do so much better than this. This. She said it like I wasn't sitting right there. That's extremely rude, I said. Calm, measured. I'm proud of what I do. I'm good at my job. I make decent money. Maybe not 6 figures, but I'm stable and... Stable, Margaret interrupted. Stable is what you call mediocrity when you want it to sound respectable. You're a failure who's convinced himself he's successful. There's a difference. The table went silent. I felt my face get hot. I'm not a failure. No? Let's see. You're almost 30. You make barely over entry-level wages for your field. You rent. You don't even own property. You drive a 4-year-old sedan. You bought my daughter a ring that's what, $5,000? Less? When Kevin proposed to Rachel, the ring cost $20,000. Mom, Jennifer said louder. I'm just being honest. This man is not worthy of you. He's settling for a mediocre life, and he wants to drag you into it. You should be with someone who matches your ambition. Someone who... Dr. Patterson, I said, keeping my voice level even though I wanted to scream. I respect that you want the best for your daughter. But I love Jennifer. I work hard. I'm financially responsible. I treat her well. I'm not rich, but I'm not a failure. And frankly, insulting me at Thanksgiving dinner isn't going to change the fact that Jennifer said yes when I proposed. Margaret stared at me. Then she turned to Jennifer. Are you gonna let him talk to me like that? Jennifer looked at me, then at her mother, and I saw it happen. I saw her make a choice. Don't talk back to my mother or get out. 6 words. Quiet, but clear. The table was silent again. I looked at Jennifer, my fiancée, the woman I'd loved for 2.5 years. The woman I'd proposed to. The woman who just told me to shut up or leave because I defended myself against her mother calling me a failure. I nodded. Didn't argue. Didn't raise my voice. Didn't try to defend myself further. Just nodded. Then I stood up, grabbed my jacket from the back of my chair. Wait, what are you doing? Jennifer asked. You told me to get out. I'm getting out. I didn't mean, I just meant don't be disrespectful to my mother. I wasn't disrespectful. I defended myself. There's a difference. But you've made your choice. Enjoy your dessert. I walked out, got in my car, drove home. Jennifer called 6 times on the drive. I didn't answer. She texted, "You're overreacting. Come back, we can talk about this. You embarrassed me. My mom is just protective. Answer your phone." I didn't respond to any of it. Got home around 9 p.m. Sat in my apartment. Our apartment, except it wasn't our apartment. It was mine. My name on the lease. My furniture. My kitchen stuff. Jennifer had moved in, but she'd never really moved in, if that makes sense. She had her clothes, her toiletries, some books, but the apartment was mine. Jennifer texted again around 11 p.m. I'm staying at Kevin's for the weekend. Need some space. We'll talk when I get back Sunday afternoon. Sunday afternoon. 3 days. That gave me time. That's when I made a decision. I wasn't going to be there when she got back. Friday morning, 6 a.m., I was awake, hadn't slept much, kept replaying the dinner. The look on Jennifer's face when she chose her mother, the casual cruelty in Margaret's voice, the way the whole table had sat there in silence. I called a moving company, explained I needed to move as soon as possible. They had a slot available Sunday. Perfect. Booked it. $850 for a 2-man crew and a truck for 4 hours. Then I started apartment hunting online, pulled up rental listings, found a 1-bedroom place about 15 minutes away, smaller than my current apartment but newer. Hardwood floors, updated kitchen, in-unit washer-dryer. $1,100 a month versus the $1,350 I was paying now. I called the landlord at 9 a.m., explained I was looking to move quickly. Could I see it today? Toured it at noon. Clean. Bright. No memories of Jennifer attached to it. No couch we'd picked out together. No bedroom where we'd slept for a year and a half. Just blank space I could fill however I wanted. I put down a deposit, $1,100 for first month, $1,100 security deposit, $2,200 total. Signed the lease, move-in date Monday. Drove back to my current apartment, started packing. I was systematic about it. Got boxes from the U-Haul store. Started in the bedroom. Packed my clothes, my shoes, my books from the nightstand. Jennifer's stuff stayed exactly where it was, her clothes in the closet, her jewelry box on the dresser, her skincare products on her side of the bathroom counter. I packed everything that was mine, my laptop, my gaming console, my monitors, the framed photos of my family, not our photos together, those could stay or burn for all I cared, but my family photos that I'd had before I met her. Worked until midnight, boxes stacked everywhere. Labeled, bedroom, office, kitchen, living room. Saturday morning, I kept going. Kitchen was tricky. We'd merged our stuff. But I remembered what was mine. The nice knife set I'd bought 2 years before we met. The cast iron skillet I'd had since college. The coffee maker I'd purchased because Jennifer's cheap one made terrible coffee. I left her the cheap coffee maker. Bathroom, my toiletries, my towels, my bathroom scale. She could keep the shower curtain. I'd bought it, but I didn't want it. Living room, my TV, my soundbar, my couch, my coffee table, my bookshelf, my books. Jennifer had contributed a lamp and some decorative pillows. Those stayed. By Saturday night, the apartment looked gutted. You could see the outline of where furniture had been on the carpet. Dust patterns on the walls, where shelves had hung. The bedroom had just Jennifer's mattress on the floor. She'd brought it when she moved in because I already had a bed. I'd packed my bed frame and mattress into the moving truck. I stood in the empty living room. 2.5 years. Gone. Packed into boxes. Ready to move. Ordered pizza. Ate it sitting on the floor since the kitchen table was already wrapped and ready for the movers. Surreal. 2 days ago, I was planning to marry this woman. Now I was eating pizza on the floor of an apartment I was abandoning. Sunday morning, movers came at 8 a.m. Two guys, mid-30s, efficient. They took one look at all the boxes and the furniture and got to work. Breaking up, one of them asked while loading the couch. "How'd you guess? We do a lot of these moves. Always tell by what gets left behind. Decorative pillows, cheap furniture, women's clothes. You're leaving the relationship, not the woman." That obvious? Every time. They had everything loaded by 11 a.m. I followed them to my new place. They unloaded. I tipped them $100 each. They'd earned it. Spent the afternoon unpacking essentials, bed, TV, coffee maker, made the place livable. Then I went back to the old apartment, cleaned, vacuumed, wiped down every surface, scrubbed the bathroom, mopped the kitchen. I wanted to leave it clean, not for Jennifer, for myself, so I could walk away knowing I'd done everything right, that she couldn't blame me for trashing the place or leaving it a mess. When I finished, it was 6 p.m. The apartment was spotless and empty except for Jennifer's stuff scattered around. I sat down at the kitchen counter, pulled out a notepad, started writing. Then I sat down and wrote a note, left it on the kitchen counter where she'd see it. "Jennifer, you told me to get out. I'm taking your advice. I've moved out. Everything that's mine is gone. Everything that's yours is still here. The lease is in my name, so I've notified the landlord I'm breaking it. You have until the end of December to move out. That gives you 1 month. Your ring is in the bedroom. I'm not interested in being engaged to someone who sides with their mother over me when that mother calls me a failure. Good luck with your life. I hope you find someone who makes 6 figures and drives a new car and buys $20,000 rings. I hope they make you happy. I hope your mother approves. I'm done. Mark." I left the ring on the bathroom counter. $4,800 engagement ring that she'd loved 6 months ago. Didn't matter now. Took one last look at the apartment. 2.5 years of relationship. 1.5 years of living together. Gone. Drove to my new place. Started unpacking. Jennifer came back to the apartment Sunday afternoon, just like she'd said. 3 days after Thanksgiving. I know because she started calling. Over and over. Then texting, "What the fuck? Where are you? Where is everything? Did you actually move out? Are you serious right now? Call me. Call me. We need to talk about this. You can't just leave." I responded once. "You told me to get out. I got out. We're done. Don't contact me again." She called 37 more times that day. I blocked her number. She showed up at my work Monday morning. Security called me. "There's a woman in the lobby asking for you. Says she's your fiancé. Says it's an emergency." I went down, saw Jennifer through the glass doors. She looked terrible, hair unwashed, no makeup, wearing sweatpants and one of my old hoodies that she must have found in her stuff. I told security I'd handle it. Walked out. Mark, thank God, they wouldn't let me up. I know, I told them not to. "We need to talk." "No, we don't." "Yes, we do. You can't just leave like that. Move out without telling me. End everything without even a conversation. You told me to get out. I got out. That was the conversation." I didn't mean actually leave. I meant don't talk back to my mother at dinner. Same thing to me. You chose your mother's feelings over mine. You let her call me a failure and then got mad at me for defending myself. That tells me everything I need to know. I panicked. She's my mother. I've spent my whole life trying to keep the peace with her. It's complicated. It's not complicated. When someone attacks your partner, you defend your partner. You didn't. You defended your attacker. We're done. Please. Mark, please. I love you. I made a mistake. I'll set boundaries with her. I'll tell her she was wrong. I'll make it right. Where was that impulse on Thursday? When she was calling me mediocre and a failure? When she was comparing me to your brother? Where was the boundary setting then? She didn't have an answer. That's what I thought. Go home, Jennifer. Pack your stuff. You have until the end of December. This is cruel. You're being cruel. I'm being clear. There's a difference. We're done. Don't come back here. I walked back into the building. Security watched her through the glass as she stood there crying. Then she left. She found my new address somehow. Probably called around to moving companies. Showed up Tuesday night around 8 p.m. Banged on the door. Yelled through it. "Mark, open the door. We need to talk." I sat on my couch. Turned up the TV. This is insane. You can't just end a 2-year relationship over one dinner. I'd already ended it. The question was when she'd accept that. My mom apologized. She called me crying. She feels terrible. She didn't mean what she said. Funny how Margaret felt terrible after her daughter's fiancé left. Not, while she was saying it, or the day after. Only once there were consequences. Mark, please. I love you. I made a mistake. I should have defended you. I know that now. I'm sorry. Please open the door. Please talk to me. I listened to her yell and cry for 30 minutes. My neighbors probably thought I was the asshole. Maybe I was. Didn't change anything. Eventually, she left. I heard her car start, watched through the window as she drove away. She tried emailing me. I'd set up a filter that sent anything from her address straight to trash. She tried messaging me on social media, already blocked. She tried having Kevin call me. I blocked him after the second attempt. Then Rachel called from a number I didn't recognize. Mark, it's Rachel, Kevin's wife. I know who you are. Look, I get it. Margaret was way out of line. What she said was horrible. And Jennifer shouldn't have told you to get out. But she's devastated. She really loves you. She made a mistake siding with her mom, but she was caught off guard. Margaret has been controlling Jennifer her whole life. It's complicated. It's not complicated to me. Your sister-in-law chose her abusive mother over me when I needed her to choose me. That's simple. She panicked. She's been conditioned her whole life to defend Margaret. It's literally abuse. Years of psychological manipulation. You're punishing Jennifer for being abused. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm choosing not to be in a relationship with someone who sides against me when it matters. Her history with her mother explains her behavior. It doesn't excuse it. So that's it? 2.5 years and you're just done? Yeah, that's it. I'm not interested in being second place to someone who thinks I'm a failure. And I'm not interested in spending my life managing someone's toxic mother. Jennifer has to fix that relationship before she can have a healthy relationship with anyone. That's her work to do, not mine. You're really not willing to give her another chance? Even if she goes to therapy? Even if she sets boundaries with Margaret? Rachel, if Kevin's mother called you a failure at Thanksgiving dinner, and Kevin told you to shut up or get out, would you stay with him? Long silence. That's different. How? Because Kevin wouldn't do that. Exactly. Because you chose a partner who wouldn't do that. I chose wrong. Now I'm correcting that mistake. She hung up on me. 2 weeks later, Jennifer's stuff was gone from the old apartment. I'd paid the lease-breaking fee. Landlord found a new tenant. A month later, mutual friends started reaching out. Apparently, Jennifer was telling people I'd abandoned her over one little comment her mother made. That I was controlling and couldn't handle criticism. That I'd left her financially stranded by moving out without warning. I set the record straight where it mattered. Showed people the texts. Explained what actually happened. Most people who knew me believed my version. A few took her side. That's fine. They can have her. 3 months later, I'm settled in my new place. Dating again. Nothing serious yet, but I'm not in a hurry. I ran into Kevin at a coffee shop last week. He saw me. Looked like he wanted to avoid me. I waved. He came over. How's it going? I asked. Good. You? Can't complain. New apartment's working out. Job's good. That's good. Awkward silence. Then, look, for what it's worth, I'm sorry about Thanksgiving. My mom was completely out of line. I should have said something. Appreciate that. Jennifer's pretty torn up still. She asks about you. That's rough. She still thinks you guys can work it out. We can't. What happened at Thanksgiving wasn't about your mom. It was about Jennifer choosing to defend someone who was attacking me instead of standing by me. That's not something I can get past. Kevin nodded. I get it. Rachel and I talked about it. She said if I'd done what Jennifer did, she'd have left me too. Smart woman. Yeah. He paused. Jennifer's therapist told her the same thing, that she chose wrong, that she has to work on setting boundaries with our mom before she can have a healthy relationship with anyone. Therapy's good. Hope it helps her. You're really not interested in trying again? Even if she makes changes? Kevin, your sister told me to get out because I wouldn't sit quietly while your mother called me a failure. That's not a momentary lapse in judgment. That's showing me who she is and what I can expect if we stay together. I believe people when they show me who they are. He didn't have a response to that. I finished my coffee. Shook his hand. Left. Jennifer sent me one final email last week. It got past my filters somehow. Subject line: I understand now. The email was long. Explained that she's been in therapy, that she realizes how toxic her relationship with her mother is, that she's gone low contact with Margaret, that she understands why I left, that she's sorry, that she wishes she could go back and handle Thanksgiving differently, that she hopes I'm happy, that she'll always love me. I read it, deleted it, didn't respond. Because here's the thing. I don't doubt that Jennifer's in therapy. I don't doubt she realizes her mom is toxic. I don't doubt she wishes things were different. But when it mattered, when I needed her to stand by me, she told me to shut up or get out. And I chose to get out. And honestly, I'm glad I did. My new apartment is great. My job is the same. Still making my apparently mediocre $92,000 a year. Still working at my not Google company. Still perfectly happy with my choices. I'm dating someone now. Her name's Amy. She's a teacher. Makes about $54,000 a year. When I told her what I did for work, she said, "That's cool. I don't really understand software stuff, but it sounds interesting." When I told her how much I made, she said, "That's more than me, but okay." When I told her about my car, she said, "Does it run?" "Yeah." Then who cares? We had Thanksgiving at her parents' house this year. Her dad asked what I did for work. I told him. He said, "Software, huh? I don't understand computers, but my company uses them, so someone's got to make the programs. You make good money doing that?" "Yeah, I do, all right." "Good. That's good. You want more turkey?" That was it. No interrogation, no comparisons, no calling me a failure. Just, you make good money doing that, and you want more turkey. Amy's mom asked about the ring eventually. Amy had told them we weren't engaged yet, but we're getting serious. "Whenever you're ready, I'm sure whatever you choose will be lovely," Amy's mom said. My ring was my grandmother's. Cost nothing, but it means everything. Price doesn't matter if the love is real. The difference was staggering. I'm not saying Amy's the one. It's only been a few months. But I'm saying she's someone who doesn't come with a toxic mother who thinks I'm not good enough. She's someone who thinks $92,000 is perfectly fine. She's someone who, when her mother hypothetically insulted me at dinner, would tell her mother to knock it off instead of telling me to get out. Jennifer wanted me to understand that her mother's behavior was complicated, that years of abuse had conditioned her responses, that I should have been more patient. Maybe all that's true. But I'm 29 years old, I make good money, I have a good job, I'm stable and responsible, and I treat people well. And I deserve a partner who thinks that's enough. Jennifer didn't. So I left. Took get out literally and never looked back.